Okay, so Meta didn't work, or you couldn't quite target your audience, or you didn't want to try. You should really try. But let's say we've moved on from that and it's time to try something else. The work we've done so far is not lost. It's all actually building up to the same kind of testing. Now, we're going to have to move into something that's going to require a little bit more work. It's probably going to be a little bit more costly, but it's still way better than building a product that nobody wants to buy. Focus on taking the language that you've developed, the pain points, the messaging, and use it in a different way. We can turn the same kind of storytelling into things like Google Ads. Now, we have to take a slightly different approach because on Meta, we're interrupting a flow. We're disrupting that scrolling pattern that everybody seems to have, and we're giving them a message that resonates. It's a strong emotional message that if it clicks, they click. When we move over to Google, we're going to take a slightly different approach. In fact, what we're about to do is really similar to what we would do next on Meta. We're just skipping a step. So you may want to jump ahead and read the next chapter about how to turn pain points into headlines and use that as part of this test. We're going to be moving from an emotional, strong, me or I centered statement to a you statement. I'm going to solve this problem for you. We're going to use that in Google Ads because people are now actively searching for a solution to a problem, and your goal is to come up and say, hey, I have a solution. The value of all of the work you've done so far is that we might find or have found that people are looking for things that are tangentially related to the problem that we're focusing on. So we may want to try different keywords that are closely related to our product, but not specifically related. It's that idea of looking for managing my business versus accounting software. There's a goal in here where we want to make sure that we solve the problem that people are actively thinking about and ensure that that problem is a thing that resonates with them. So my recommendation, if you want to take the Google path, is to ensure that you are changing these statements into more headline type statements, things that talk about how I'm solving a problem, and use that as your first test. Now the thing here is that we're going to be looking more for the cost of customer acquisition. We want to make sure that we still get a good click-through rate, but the same metrics don't quite apply. Google is a different beast, but it's the same principles apply. We're going to be looking to understand what is the click-through rate and what is the cost per click. Now they're probably going to be higher than those that you'll see on the Meta platform, but as long as it's reasonable to you, it's still effective. The difference is that with Google, we're trying to find out a cost of customer acquisition that's related to your cost per click or your return on ad spend or ROAS. So the goal with Google is to ensure that what you're spending to drive in 100 people makes sense for your product. I'll include a couple really quick rough estimations to help you figure out if that cost of customer acquisition works for you specifically. The other thing that we can do is if we want to move away from Google, we could try LinkedIn outreach. Instead of using headlines specifically with LinkedIn outreach, we might want to try and take that pain point and turn it into more of a you statement. I'm going to use my electric RV example. It's probably not the best one, but I'm going to use it to try and illustrate a point. Instead of using a statement like we wrote out, which is, I don't need a fancy new trailer, I need smart tech for the one that I own, we could change that statement into something that is more about engaging that user. So it could be, hey, what if you didn't need a new trailer and you could upgrade yours to be a smart trailer, or you could upgrade yours to be electric? There might be some combination of language that still speaks to that value proposition, but ideally is going to get somebody to engage with your content, to connect with you, and maybe start a longer conversation. Keep in mind, even if you don't have a product built, it's a great way to get that first engaged potential user. This person could be your evangelist. It could be the person who you convince that this is a great solution. They're ready to buy, and they start telling your story. Because you know what's always better? Is instead of you telling your story, having somebody else tell theirs. That story is going to resonate with the people they connect with, and you can learn a lot from that. One of the other recommendations that we've used a lot is email outreach. It's something where if you have a targeted list, or you can create a targeted list, or you know where to get a targeted list, these things can be really impactful. Because again, I'm going to take that group and instead of blasting out one single email to that entire list of people, I'm going to chunk it into pieces. I'm going to take 10 people and send out one email with one type of message. And then I'm going to take another message, change it, craft it differently, use a different pain point, and send it out to another 10. And I'm going to keep doing that and measuring the responses I'm getting until I get a consistent result. Then I'm going to take the one that's working the best and add variations to it. If I can get somebody to engage, that's more meaningful at this point to know that I'm on the right track. And then it's about listening, about understanding what they would do or would not do. If you're a little further along and you already have an early concept of what you're doing, one of the best things you can do is do that email outreach, get that first connection, show off what you're doing and explain why it's valuable, and try and get them to sign a letter of intent. We've actually done this with some clients where we've created really terrible looking prototypes, but they get the point across. So we can talk to them about the specifics of what we're trying to do. Hell, we've even done this on paper. We've done it with Figma clickable prototypes. We've done it with all kinds of different tools. But the goal is if we're going to go down this path, we need something measurable and meaningful. So sure, we can't measure intent to purchase because they are clicking in on our website. But what we can do is show them a proof of concept, show them an intent, show them a drawing of a thing that you want to do, and get them to sign a piece of paper. Typically, this is referred to as a letter of intent. Now, just so you know, a letter of intent is not strictly enforceable. Typically, there's a clause within them that literally says you can back out at any time. However, we have a strategy that we find works a little bit better than that. Instead of just asking in generic language, hey, would you be interested when this is ready to sign up for a beta? We put pricing in it. We put a line for the signing authority to actually put their signature down. Because now we can do two things. We can gauge whether or not who we believe is our ideal customer has some interest in our product, and we can figure out who has buying authority within that organization. It might not be our buyer. It could be somebody else. And if that's the case, we now have their name and signature and email address so that we can use them as another test bed later in this experiment. So if Meta didn't work for you or you didn't want to try it, you can try these other methods. I'm going to put some links below to make sure that you have access to some additional references, and we're going to turn that material into stuff that you can use. No matter what approach you take, make sure you're collecting data. First of all, we want to make sure that we get good engagement rates, and we want to find the messaging that resonates the strongest in market. The other thing is, especially if you're going direct to an end customer and you're using an email template, make sure you get engagement that is meaningful. If you have a prototype and you're showing that off and you're looking for a letter of intent, that's great. Make sure the numbers make sense. One of the things that's going to be critical to your success is ensuring not just that you can get people on board, but when you get them on board, there's a value proposition that's going to make you profitable.